area here is closer to Yonkers. Uh, so let's go with PC parts. Someone was asking for a PC build that would be in the $700 range, and I just want to show everyone that that is still possible by today's standards. We're going to go with Team Red because I like AMD personally. We're going to go with lowest price for the CPU and start there. Babe, I think the kids are calling you. So here we go. So right here on Micro Center, lowest price, top two CPUs for price range. You have 60 bucks. This went up. This was 45 just a month ago. It's now 60. $60, Ryzen 5 4500. Not the best CPU because it doesn't have the L3 cache that's like super optimal for gaming, but it's still a good CPU, and if anyone tells you otherwise, they're a silly goose. Then you have a much better Ryzen 5 5500. Let's do a little science here and go back to versus. We're going to do the Ryzen 4500. You know what? I think it's AMD 4500. There it is. And we're going to go AMD 5500. There it is, and we're gonna hit compare here. So we got 43 points to 44 points. Looks pretty close, but right here, 8 megabytes higher L3 cache. So when it comes to gaming, you want the L3 cache. So the 5500 has double the L3 cache, at least if I'm reading this correctly. That's what makes sense to me. I think you can kind of ignore the rest of these specs. This has a 5 degrees higher temperature. So overall, you're not going to notice too much of a difference with these two CPUs except for the L3 cache. So the 5500 will be better for gaming, but depending on your budget, you have $60 here and $70 here. I would just say for 70 bucks, go with the 5500, right? So that's our CPU, 70 bucks. Can I even get a, let me see if I can pull up a calculator. Here we go. So we have 70 bucks. We're gonna hit plus. All right, PC parts. Next, we need a motherboard. We're going as cheap as possible here. And I'll show you an alternative too. So all AMD socket motherboards. Boom. Lowest price. Boom. So here we go. We have an A520 from ASRock and an MSI A520, relatively the same price, and then we jump up a little bit higher with a B550. Honestly, I recommend the A520's cheapest motherboard. We're not worried about overclocking here. We're not worried about crazy VRM cooling and all of that fancy stuff. We just want quick and dirty performance, price, you know. Let's go with the ASRock A520 here. So let's go with $65. So we're going to go plus 65. So we're at $135 here. And now we're going to go to PC parts. We're going to go with computer memory RAM. We're going to go with DDR4 RAM right here. We're going to go with lowest price. All right, let's find something fancy. We don't want none of that green stuff. Okay, 16 gigs, 2 by 8 gigs. A lot of people will still tell you that 16 gigs is not enough, and I actually will agree with them today. 16 gigs of RAM seems like it's hitting that wall, but it will still absolutely do what you need it to do. So we have $105 here. Okay, so we're going to go plus 105. So we're at $240 now, okay? Next, we need a graphics card. We're going to go straight into that, even though most of our money is going to go here. So Ryzen 5 5500 is our CPU. We're going to go with, you know what, just to be funny, we're going to go all graphics cards. We're going to go to lowest price, and we're going to check out what our options are live in real time. So let's see, we're aiming for around 200 to 300 bucks. I think that's a solid price point for a GPU. So we have a B570. This would be my first pick. For $200, this definitely destroys the RTX 3050 6 gig, and again, we'll do this live. I'll do this with you guys so you guys experience this. So we have the B570 Intel Arc and the, what was that? That was a 3050, not even a 5050. That was a 3050 6 gig. Let's compare the two right here. You have 51 points to 61 points. We knew that this was stronger than this. Obviously, this uses less power, 70 watts compared to 150, and it does have whatever version of cheap DLSS because this is the 3050 6 gig. If you don't know, then you don't know, and you should check out kingsalongaming.com. So here we go. More VRAM for the B570, a lot faster, more T-flops, and all of the good stuff. So that is definitely a better option than this one, and I highly advise people use a little bit of brain power. Now here we have 6600. Honestly, this is a great pick. The 6600 can still do a lot of things. It supports games like Indiana Jones that can only run if you have ray tracing available. 3060 refurbished. So I would stay away from refurbished. We're trying to get a new card, right? So 6600 is one of my top picks, and B570. The only thing holding me back from saying absolutely get a B570 is the fact that even though the Intel drivers are getting better and better every day, it's still very hard to justify them because a lot of people do have different types of bugs, and that causes a lot of problems for people in gaming. So if you want to avoid that, the RX 6600 is a nice choice here. Okay, so we have a 50-50 here. So let's go back to this website. Let's add comparison. We're going to remove the 3050 and we're going to jump to the 5050. NVIDIA default, compare. Okay, so the Intel Arc B570 still beats the 5050 by 1 point. Let's see why. 2 more gigs of VRAM for the B570. Let's see why this is better. So it has a GPU, faster GPU clock speed, 1 more teraflop higher, lower power draw, supports DLSS. So this is where I would actually say, oh, PCIe version 5 versus 4. That's honestly whatever. At the end of the day, because what we're going by here is the PCIe version of the CPU, but for future proofing you do want the version 5 versus the version 4 just for future upgradability, but for right now we don't really care about that. We're just going with things like DLSS and clock speed and VRAM. B570 has more VRAM, but 8 gigs is okay for 2025. Still not the best, but it is okay, especially for this power price range that we're going for. So I would definitely say that for the NVIDIA drivers being as, you know, invested as they are in them, 250 for a 5050, if you have to have NVIDIA, go with this. You know, yes, YouTubers will say that this is worse than a 3060, and it sure is, you know, it might be. But at the end of the day, if you want something with newer drivers, lower power draw, that is still team green for you, I would say this 5050 is perfectly fine for 250. Okay, now back to team red. Instead of the 6600, I would definitely say this is the better card, the 7600 or the XT variant. 8 gigs VRAM. Again, developed drivers for team red. I think their drivers are perfectly fine. I don't think people need to say that their drivers are like bad or anything. I know we have haters on both teams, so you know that's fine. But for the same price, you also have the B580. Now, the B580 absolutely destroys these two cards, but because of drivers, maybe the B580 is just not your first pick. So I would definitely say 5050 or the 7600. Okay, let's see if we have any better. So these are just more of the same thing. So this 7600 XT 16 gig is $249, and this 7600 8 gig is $249. You see things like this, you definitely want to pick them up. Now, this one is refurbished, but a 16 gig 7600 XT refurb, it's not that old. We're not talking about a 3060 that was released a couple of years ago. This is relatively new, only maybe like 2 years old. So this probably has been taken apart, new thermal paste, and Micro Center does test their cards. I've seen them do it live. I know they do it. So I would trust this if you had to. If you had to. But let's keep going with the new cards. So again, another B580, 50/50 low profile. I would not get a low profile card unless you need low profile for the size of your case. So don't worry about that, because at the end of the day, its heatsink is not as big as you'd want it to be. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. So far we're at $250 for a GPU. Pretty solid. All right, here we go. 9060 XT. Now, everyone is correct, I think, that says you should get absolutely the 16 gig version, but the 16 gig version is an entire $100 more. If you're talking about the newest AMD software architecture, I would definitely say for the price, $289, it's $20 more than the 7600. This gives you the newer architecture, newer drivers, better game support. 8 gigs, $289 is what I would absolutely suggest to everyone that was on a budget. And if not, the 16 gig variant, which is further down the list, but for time reasons, we're going to go with this one, the 289 Reaper. So let's go with plus 290. So we're at $530. We need an SSD, a power supply, and we'll pick out a cheeky little case. So let's go with PC parts. Let's go with power supplies, the most controversial part of the PC. So we're going to go back to lowest price, because all we care about is power to performance. All right, we are going to stay away from the Thermaltake Smart Series. If you don't know, then you don't know, and if you know, then you're a cool guy. Let's keep going. Power spec is Micro Center's built brand. That's their own brand. Very cool stuff. This is the one case where I'd probably say you'd be better off finding something like my personal favorite lower budget power supply is Apevia. I do like the Apevia power supplies. Let me see if I can find that for you on Amazon. We're going to check out Apevia 600 watt. Okay, so you have the Spirit 600 watt for $33, or the Apevia Pro 600 watt Prestige. Now, yes, gold certified, you know, some of these you have to take with a grain of salt. Apevia is a cheaper brand. It is more budget. I have had no issues with these. I've used a bunch of them over time. As long as you know how much power your CPU takes and GPU takes, these will be absolutely fine. Now, if you want something more name brand, something safer, right here, I've done this power supply several times. The MSI Mag A650BE for $70. Let me see if I can see the specs for this power supply. Okay, it has the 12 volt connector. Wait, no, that's not 12 volt high power. Sorry. So 24 pin CPU pin and 2x6 graphics card. Okay, so this doesn't have the pin for the 12 volt high power, so it's not like the latest power supply, but this is absolutely something I would go with if we're just shopping a name brand Micro Center. So we're going to add plus $70 here. So we're at $600. So let's get an SSD for our fantasy PC. Drives and storage. All solid state drives. And we're going to go lowest price. So if you're starting out a PC build, I highly recommend that you start off with a 1 terabyte right off rip. Don't waste your time with 500 gig anymore. That's just not enough space. Windows and 2 games on Steam, you're already full unless all you play is Megabonk, like I do obsessively. And like, you know, you have people like Helldivers finally like chopping down some of the used stuff out of their software and making it into a 20 gig file. Thank you, Arrowhead. Love you guys for that. Okay, so let's get a decent 480 gig. Okay, yeah. So Inland is again Micro Center's brand. I believe Inland is Micro Center's brand. I know Power Spec is for the power supplies, but Inland should be also. If not, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me on that. But yeah, $89 for a 1 terabyte SATA SSD with NAND is very good. I would use this more for a game drive just to have more games. We're going to go with a NVMe. Okay, this is Gen 3. Perfectly fine. You're not going to really notice it from Gen 4, maybe like a split second for a loading screen. So let's go with, yeah, the prices went up thanks to the AI bubble and Micron and all of them. So let's add a flat 100 here. We're at $700. Okay, and now finally, PC parts. Let's go with computer cases. Okay, we'll go all, and we're going to go lowest price. I already saw like the winner for me. Do not get the Master Box QL 300. It's not worth $35. Even if you think it's just $35, it'll save you money. You're going to absolutely hate this case. There's no space in this case to route cables. It's going to look almost as bad as it's going to look almost as bad as this, except this case is actually very decent looking from the outside. Like that's pretty clean right there. So let's go something better. You don't want this. Maybe you do. That's up to you. You know, something decent like the nice, this, I don't like this design at all. Okay, I've used this case a couple of times. It's a pretty decent case, but those fans, I think, are default rainbow colors. So if you don't like that, you can go with something all blacked out like the Versa H18. But here's probably the best one I would go with is actually right here. For 70 bucks, the Montech mid-tower computer case. I like this. This has the glass on the front, glass on the side. These fans go on the back side. You got the ventilated bottom area for the power supply. Overall, solid case. Now, if you are at a Micro Center, you can click on the super secret, if I can find it. That's how secret it is. The filter. We are going to find. Okay. Clearly, I know how to use the mobile site better than I do the website. Here we go. Open box. I apologize. Nobody saw that. Okay, lowest price open box. So this case normally is 70 bucks. Here it is, open box $55. Open box is perfectly fine for a case because that means somebody bought it and returned it within 15 to 30 days. And it's a metal case. It's really hard to mess it up. If anything's wrong with these fans, you just swap them out. $5 a fan on Amazon. Speaking of which, let me hook you guys up. If you go on Amazon and you type in Dark Rock 120, you get these beautiful fake Lian Li fans. 3 fans for 15 bucks. And they have that beautiful infinity mirror thing that everybody likes. I bought these myself and tested them out. They work really well and they look pretty good. They have them in white and black. So I would probably get 1 pack of these and swap it into this case. Maybe get 2 packs, put some on the top, 1 maybe in the bottom somewhere, get some nice RGB going in your system. And each one of these comes with the like a little, there's like a little mini hub in the pack. I don't see if they have the photo included here, but they do come with it. I know that they do. They have these plugs, and I'm pretty sure there's a little pack. In each pack of 3 fans, there's 1 little mini hub that you can use to connect it all. So this is the case that I would go with, something like this for $55, or if you have a little bit more to spend, open box saves you $20 to $30 per case. So you have 700 plus 56, 756. So we're gonna do plus tax. You're looking at about 800, 850 for a pure power performance PC combo. For $1,000, you can go straight AM5, and again, Micro Center, just as a comparison. So we have, where is this? Top deals, the bundles. The bundles will save you the most money. I'm going to go AMD just because I like AMD. But just as a comparison, if you don't want AM4, this is the 2-in-1 combo. Yes, it looks cheap, but if you think that RAM is not the issue with AM5 right now, that's where the price difference kind of like comes into play here. A lot of these used to come with free sticks of RAM. For this exact same price, you would get 2 beautiful sticks of RAM. That has clearly changed, except for the $3,000 Threadripper. So there's that one. But this is not bad. You know, add G.Skill 16 gig DDR5 for $150, 32 gig for $275. So $275 plus this, and then you throw in a 9060 XT 16 gig with the power supply and the same case that we got with the same SSD. You know, you're looking at closer to 1,000, 1,200 plus tax. So it starts to climb if you go with these bundles, but this is still a pretty decent bundle. Let's see if we can go back and check the Intel one out. Let's see, shop Intel bundles right here. Okay, same deal. The RAM is now separate instead of included because of the price ranges. But $329 for this Ultra 265KF. That's pretty cool. I like this one, $299 for the 12900K on a Z790 2-in-1 combo. Yeah, not bad. You know, you got some good savings here. And again, for anyone that cares, you have Micro Center. We have wow, completely lost my train of thought. Oh, okay, so gaming bundle motherboard. We're just going to use generic words here. Yeah, so if you look at gaming bundles on Amazon, you will find very similar. I say very similar loosely here because some of these prices, like here, the 5500 with the A520, you clearly saw that this came out to about $150 for these two components, and here it is for $239. So Amazon's going to be a little pricier, but those similar combos do exist for anyone that can't, you know, that don't have access to a Micro Center near them. 5500 with an A520. So this is a little bit closer, 199. So that's not bad there. So you have options here. You have options. So I hope that helped.